Cover crop species including turnips, radishes, rape, and winifred can be combined with traditional forage species to create a cocktail of lush, economical grazing for cows and calves. Proper management and efficient utilization of these species, however, can be different from traditional forage species. The cost competitiveness of establishing cover crop species makes them an attractive candidate for cattlemen to incorporate into calf preconditioning and background programs. This Beef Team webinar will discuss which cover cropping systems work best for grazing and how cover crops can be most efficiently utilized for the mature cow herd, preconditioning fresh weaned calves, and incorporating cover crop grazing into calf backgrounding programs. Proper management and use of these forage species can pay big dividends for cattlemen looking to incorporate new techniques into their forage system. When making decisions concerning which species will work best for your particular situation, keep the following things in mind. Cost is a critical component of an effective cover crop grazing system, and not all cover crops are the same, and they certainly do not cost the same. Dietary moisture content is key in capturing the full efficiency potential of cover crop grazing. Cold tolerance of cover crop species will play a big part in determining your forage species options, and certain species leave much more residue than others. Forecasting next year's land use with this year's needs will save costs and headaches in your cover cropping program. Dietary moisture content is a big component of cover crop species selection for grazing. It is important to note that although cover crop species can produce lots of fresh tonnage, most of this forage is water. In fact, up to 90% of the fresh weight of brassica species is water. Cereal grains tend to have more fiber and less water. A typical cereal grain species will be around 60% water at the boot stage when they are commonly grazed. Similarly, summer annual species like millet are popular for grazing mixes and can be about 55% water at the boot stage. Providing adequate dry matter roughage to grazing livestock is critical in optimizing performance and efficiency. Mixing and matching forage species based on expected moisture content at the time of grazing can optimize dry matter availability in the diet and help keep costs down. As a rule of thumb, dietary dry matter content for the mature cow may not be as important as it is for younger calves. Generally, the goal of grazing mature cows on cover crop seeding is for cheap feed rather than biological performance. Free choice hay can always be afforded to a mature cow herd if dietary dry matter is too low. Dietary dry matter for fresh weaned calves, however, needs to be maintained at a relatively high level, at least for the 30 to 45 day preconditioning period following weaning. Drastic changes in diet create stress for fresh weaned calves, so maintaining a higher level of moisture in the diet can aid in that transition. Cover crop species, and more specifically brassica species, are so highly digestible that it is difficult for a fast-growing calf to capture the nutrients it needs before the forage passes through the rumen and out of the animal. Therefore, it is critical to provide additional dry matter to the grazing diet and maintain dry matter levels between 30 and 50% of the diet. This is generally accomplished by mixing high moisture content species like brassicas with lower moisture content species like cereal grains or millet. Data from South Dakota has shown that optimal animal performance and cost lies between a 50-50 mix with brassicas and cereal grain forage or forage millet and a 30-70 brassica to cereal or millet ratio. Grazing mixes with too much brassica species did not support the level of performance in young calves that the mixes with more cereal grain forage or forage millet did. This graph shows the relative cold tolerance of common cover crop species. Brassicas tend to be very tolerant of cold weather and oftentimes will stay green well into January. Cereal grain species and annual ryegrass also have considerable cold tolerance and will maintain their quality late into the fall. While summer annual species like forage sorghum, Sudan grass, and millet produce exceptional amounts of forage, they do not tolerate cold weather at all. These species will burn down immediately following first frost. Additionally, prussic acid concentrations will spike in sorghums and Sudan grass immediately following frost, which can create problems for grazing livestock. If you are planning to graze cows or calves past the first frost date for your area, be sure to take cold tolerance of forage species into consideration before seeding. Although often overlooked, residue management of cover crop species needs to be considered when selecting forage species. Contrary to popular belief, many forage species, even if they are grazed, can leave excessive amounts of residue that will have to be contended with next spring. Furthermore, harvest efficiency by grazing livestock typically is quite low, leaving additional residue. This graph shows the percent of total forage crop that was left as residue following grazing as represented by the red bars. You can see that many of these species are not grazed very efficiently, and significant residue was left following grazing. Forecasting next year's land use before making a decision on forage species can save significant costs in dealing with residue from this year's forage crop. Probably the biggest benefit of using cover crop forage for grazing the mature cow herd is economical. South Dakota data has shown that cover crop grazing can reduce feed costs between $30 and $50 per cow per month compared to the average cost of feeding grass hay. Incorporating cover crop species into calf weaning programs can pay big dividends for some producers. Many weaning systems can create a tremendous amount of stress on young calves and lead to a myriad of health problems that are difficult and expensive to overcome. There are three critical factors that lead to stress in fresh weaned calves, including a change in physical environment, usually from pasture to an unfamiliar dry lot setting, a change in diet from milk and grass to a variety of harvested roughages with low dietary moisture content, and these factors combined will eventually lead to dehydration in some calves in any group, which ultimately compromises the immune system of these calves. The average dry lot preconditioning program typically used to wean calves creates these conditions that lead to stress. In severe situations, pasture weaning can alleviate some of these conditions. Studies have shown significant benefits to pasture weaning systems. This study showed no difference in calf morbidity, percent chronic sickness, and calf death loss amongst different pasture weaning programs. But there were significantly more calves that were affected by a dry lot preconditioning program compared to pasture weaning. That's not to say dry lot preconditioning programs don't work if they are managed well. They work just fine. But where problems are noted repeatedly, pasture weaning may alleviate some of the noted issues. A pasture weaning preconditioning program also can be more economical compared to dry lot programs where issues with calf health are repeatedly a problem. A study from South Dakota showed that there were no differences in 45-day preconditioning costs between different pasture preconditioning systems, but a significant cost difference was noted when pasture preconditioning programs were compared with dry lot preconditioning programs. The majority of the cost difference in the dry lot program came from increased feed cost and treating calf sickness. Cover crop forage also may be an economical addition to calf backgrounding programs. The low cost of establishment, ease of germination, and relative tolerance for cooler weather can make them an excellent addition to a backgrounding program. A South Dakota study comparing two 90-day backgrounding programs showed that economically, calves that grazed cover crop forage for the first 45-day preconditioning period and then were moved to a traditional dry lot backgrounding program was more economical than calves preconditioned and backgrounded in a dry lot only. Throughout the 90-day period of the study, calves in the dry lot gained more total pounds through the 45-day preconditioning period and the 45-day backgrounding period. Furthermore, calf performance as measured by average daily gain was higher for calves preconditioned in the dry lot. However, calves preconditioned on cover crop forage exhibited significant compensatory gain when they were moved to the dry lot backgrounding program, outgaining the dry lot calves by nearly 0.4 of a pound per day. Overall, calf performance was higher for calves preconditioned and backgrounded in the dry lot. Economically, though, calves gained more efficiently in the dry lot during the 45-day preconditioning period by about $10 per hundredweight. But the compensatory gain in the calves preconditioned on cover crop forage and backgrounded in the dry lot gained more efficiently in the dry lot and were more efficient overall by $15 per hundredweight by the end of the backgrounding period. To summarize today's webinar, the type of crop you want depends on what you are going to do with it and what you are going to do with it next year in terms of residue. Using a cover crop to extend the grazing season for mature cows can result in reduced feed costs. Cover crops can be incorporated successfully into calf preconditioning programs, and both calf preconditioning programs and backgrounding programs can benefit from the use of cover crop forage. I hope you've enjoyed today's webinar brought to you by the University of Minnesota Beef Team. For more information, contact Eric Mosel, the Extension Cow-Calf Educator at the North Central Research and Outreach Center at Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Thanks for listening.